And well, thanks everyone for joining us. Tom, thanks being professional this time and joining on time.
Yeah, I had some roadblocks put in front of me last time, apparently, and yeah, but I still won.
Yeah, that's true. You crushed it. Well, and for everyone, and by the way, too, if you are just joining and didn't hear the beginning, so we also don't yet have the recording from last time up and live. That's because I ended up moving and then was on the road and just have not been home and able to go in and put it all together. So my goal this week is to have my my workstation back up and then have these last month and this month's recordings up and the slides shared. So we'll get all that out to everybody. Then we'll, Tom and I will share the links out. So
God, you are really going for the sympathy vote, aren't you?
Yeah. Just a lot of stuff going on. So, but yeah, I did that move, sold the house in 17 hours and moved 15 minutes south. So I'm now in Lehi, Utah, which for those that aren't familiar with Utah, it's actually becoming the tech hub of the state. And we have the second lowest tech unemployment in the country. And I believe it was last quarter was the fastest growing state in the nation, percentage wise. So everybody escaping Washington State and California, coming to Utah and Texas, I think, are the recipients, a lot of those. But anyway, well, let's, here we are, Office 365 productivity tips, August Anarchy. Tom,
Yo,
are you psyched?
I am psyched. Or psycho, psyched, one of those things. I'm not sure which one it is.
Excellent. Well, we're going to run through and just kind of to talk about what this is. It's just introduction of myself. If you're new to this, my name is Christian Buckley. I run a company called Collab Talk LLC. We are an independent research and technical marketing services company. I'm also now an 8-year Microsoft MVP in the Office apps and services. They keep changing the name.
Congratulations.
It was, thank you, got renewed. And I'm also a Microsoft regional director, something that nobody knows what that is, but that's it's a small group of us. There's less than 200 globally. We were selected by Microsoft leadership, given our expertise in various technology platforms and areas, Microsoft tech as well as competing technology. And we provide advice and guidance to Microsoft leadership about the top 300 people in the company. And so it's interesting. I'm still kind of, I was made or was awarded the regional director back in April. So I'm still trying to figure things out. But Collab Talk's been around for a couple of years now and work with a lot of ISVs and consulting companies in primarily the SharePoint space, but the Microsoft ecosystem with various marketing and content and research and things like that. And Tom, hello.
I'm just a lowly software developer working for a regular company as a regular employee. I don't get to do all these wonderful things. I don't have a plaque with little pucks on it saying I'm an MVP.
Yeah, but Tom, I was going to talk to you about this. I mean, Tom is one of the most deserving people out there. For people that don't know, to become an MVP, you have to be nominated. And Tom, I'm going to nominate you because you do a ton of stuff. You're all over the place. You're always pleasant to be around for the most part, except when you win and then you just rub it in my face for weeks. And it's painful for me.
Dude, with the statement that you just made, I'm almost reluctant to say this because I don't think you're going to nominate me for now months on end so you can keep this going. But I promise that I will not do any trash talking or rub that in because that would be an awesome thing.
Yeah, it would be awesome to have you there. So let's talk after this because if you've not already been submitted, I'm sure I know a handful of other MVPs that would immediately jump on and push. But it's for those that don't know, like MVPs, it's because it's people that are going above and beyond to the community. And Tom, that is you. That's what you do. So. I know that you do this stuff regardless of your job, and that's what an MVP does. And so anyway, I'll push it out through the.
Now I'm blushing. Thank you.
Yes. Well, anything else you want to say about your job?
I'm speechless at this stage of the game. No, doing primarily SharePoint stuff. Thank you, Sandra. Sandra's also my boss too, which is even better. Doing primarily SharePoint stuff. We're in the process of undergoing migration from SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint Online and Office 365. So
exciting times.
Exciting's one word, yeah.
Well, but feature-wise, I mean, that just looking at what you guys are getting, and that's going to be very cool.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, I do these tips both in the 1 Minute Office Magic site, which is external, and then I also do them internally. And I primarily do them internally, and then we share going external because I had a lot of people going, wow, can I see some of those? I'm like, you can't see the internal ones, but now I kind of write the internal ones in such a way that they can be shared with no additional work. And, after a while, you're like, I'm starting to run out of stuff because everybody's moving towards that Office 365 thing, and I'd like to do tips on, OneDrive and some of these things, but I know I can't yet for my internal group because they're not there yet. But we're now in that like phase 2 testing where we're going to have about half the stuff rolled out, and I'm really jazzed about some of the things I'm going to be able to share as tips now. So it's going to open it up. And
well, Tom, there's downside to that.
And that would be?
It would be the fact that I've been generally in these sessions been sharing, like the Office 365 online capabilities. Now they're coming into my world.
I am.
So that means that when I don't get votes because the people that invited don't have that capability, they're now going to have that capability.
I will admit there have been a few times where you've shared a tip and I'm like, well, all the people who work with me on this phone call are definitely going to vote for me regardless of what I share next because they don't have a clue as to what Christian is now talking about.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm readily aware of that, yes. So let's go through really quick the rules of engagement. And I apologize if you guys can hear an echo. I'm on a headset. I don't know if it's adding value or not. And maybe Tom, I'll try and mute. Maybe you can mute the other direction when we're not talking.
Actually, you sound pretty good. I'm not having a problem with that.
Anybody else hear echoes, or is it just me? It's just my headset. It's bad.
Okay, I'll mute mine when you're doing your
presentation. Try muting yours. Let's see if that fixes it. So the echoes are gone in my head now. So it is when people still no echo. All right, yeah. So Tom, I think we'll need to do that when
the echoes are gone in your head. I so want to play with that line, but I will stay muted as you do the recording or as you do the rules of engagement and you start your tips. So go for it.
Thank you. Thank you for being professional. All right, the rules of engagement here. For those that are joining us for the first time or just reminders for those, each opponent will take turns. So we're going to go through and we're going to share 10 tips. We're going to go one at a time in 5 different rounds. The goal here is no duplicates. I have to say though, Tom, one of them I was trying to search. We need to have like a list that you and I can access, like in a shared OneDrive, like a OneNote or something, because I might have a duplicate, but I couldn't find if I did it before or if it was just one that I wanted to use and was an extra that I never did. So we'll find out together.
Well, and the thing is, after you were so nice about the MVP thing, I'm not going to point it out. So
no, you need to. And because and last time, because you did one that was a duplicate, and so I won that round. And so, in all fairness, we need to do that. And I will say that because Tom and I have committed to never duplicating these. If one of us duplicates, and because I only have the 5, so I'm also in trouble if we duplicate each other. That you may win a round because I don't have the extras here. This morning getting ready, neglected to go put 1 or 2 in place. But that voting aside, we will make sure that then the final slides and I'll even go capture a short video, give the points to Tom if I duplicate that, but make sure that the video and our tips, that they're always 10 unique tips, because we're going to be doing some other promotions and sharing these things out through the interwebs later as well. So there's reasons for that. But the audience will get to vote after each round, and we'll do that very quickly and tabulate those. We have PricewaterhouseCoopers that is standing by to make that all legit.
Good thing it's not Enron.
No hitting below the belt, but we both know that it happens sometimes because occasionally there's an errant swing, a roundhouse that just as you're jumping up, I like roundhouse and that kind of thing. But
jumping up is the only way you're going to be able to help hit me below the belt, because otherwise I can punch away and I'm always going to be below your belt, just height-wise. So hey,
good point. And the winner based on overall voting, there should be like a no whining clause, maybe just off to the side. I might do that, like a hashtag no whining or something or other. But we do like tabulate all the results, and so I'll just point out here because I didn't finish the slides from last time, that Tom is ahead in all three leaderboard metrics right now. So he has the most rounds won, the most votes captured, collected, and also the most events won right now. So, the best I can do today would be to equal him, or I could fall further behind here. But anyway, like I said, as Office 365 gets deployed within Cambia, then just wait for that, Tom.
Okay.
All right.
You keep thinking that, okay?
All right, so I'm going to start off with the first one, and then I'm going to hand over ownership this. So Tom and I haven't seen each other's slides either, so we don't know what we're going to present. That's part of the fun. If I show something that is like my number one tip is actually his number 5, then he can't use that number 5. And if he doesn't have a backup, then I win that point. So
I have a backup, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know. I figured it did. So it'll be me that's paying the price for this. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get started.
But what I'm doing is I'm talking about the reminder that is now given you when you forget your email attachment. So, we've all done it. You'll sit there and say, hey, I've got this, wonderful attachment that I want to send you, and it's got all the information on it. Let me know what you think, and boom, you hit enter. And the person's going, that was great. They didn't send me any attachment on there. And then you have to get the email back saying, hey, you didn't send it. And you're like, oops, I'm sorry. And you go back and forth. Well, now in Outlook, if you go into File and Options, you can click on the Mail option and go down to the Send Messages section in here, which is towards the bottom. And you've got an option that says, warn me when I send a message that may be missing an attachment, which is kind of cool. So if we go to the next screen here, maybe, there we go. Now when you do that and you've got that set, what happens is you hit send, and based on the words that are in the email, it tries to say, hey, you mentioned attached, attachment, enclosed, things like that are probably indicative of the fact that you meant to put an attachment in there, but you really didn't. So what happens is it pops up this reminder message that says, hey, you forgot to do this. Do you want to go ahead and send it anyway? And if you click the don't show this message again, then it's going to turn off that indicator that I showed you in the first screen. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and do send anyway if you meant to do it, or you can do don't send, go back up, get the file, and then resend it, and it looks like you meant to do it, and you save yourself a whole lot of embarrassment in the process. Looking at Anna here, if I already put the check mark in there in the past, how do I undo it to see the message in the future? I think, and I can't necessarily agree or say that this is going to be the case exactly, but if you go back to the options area for Outlook and do mail, I think if you say don't show me that message again, it's going to unselect this option. So if you then go back into here and reselect the option, then you're going to get that again. So that's how you should be able to get that back in.
So this is one pretty, in fact, I've got a few that are pretty simple, but I am using constantly. And where this comes from in my background actually goes way back into my Pacific Bell days. So some of you may recall, I worked for Pacific Telesys Shared Services. So Pacific Bell and Nevada Bell, I worked for the phone company. And I was there for a number of years and actually went over, I went from Pacific Telesys Shared Services, PTSS, over to what was Pacific Bell Mobile Services, which became Pacific Bell Wireless, which became Singular, which is now AT&T wireless.
I really do like the ability to be able to get emails and take them out of Outlook. So I find that really useful if I'm trying to put together a folder like in OneDrive or something like that that has all the information associated with a particular project. And I really don't want to keep it in Outlook, or I'm in a situation where perhaps it's going to get deleted in Outlook after X number of days, weeks, months, whatever, due to retention policies. I can keep all those files in one place. I did tell him I kind of like this tip that you're presenting.
Yes. Yeah, and I heard most of you the ad there, and I so my perspective, why I was going back the old days, what I back in the mid '90s, the late '90s, as I started getting into intranets and kind of collaboration technology, and we were experimenting with different real-time chat, like at the beginning of the social era and those kinds of things. One of the things that we found was that a lot of knowledge was being lost that was was happening within email. And so we went through great lengths in trying to automate saving email content and attachments. And what's the beauty of that, if you find that, hey, this is just this whole thread, this discussion, and I don't want to lose this information, this conversation as it's an information asset that's out there. And your organization might have policies around, exchange, archival, and maybe you're saving that content off in some way. But as Tom pointed out, most organizations, they have policies set where it's deleted and gone unless you save it in some other format. What's great about this is that you can just drag and drop an email from Outlook to your desktop, and it creates this MSG file, which you can then go and retain just like you would a Word doc or a text file, and make that accessible within within SharePoint, anywhere else that you need to retain that discussion. And so that's something that, occasionally I'd forget and I'd go and search for another way, like, how am I going to capture this? And then go add this into SharePoint, or go share these off as attachments, just historical files in another email. And it's as simple as that. Drag to the desktop, then you've got those MSG files that you can then add in, store, retain, add metadata around, and refer back to. And so there's, as I mentioned, there's other ways to automate that. We used to go in and do this. I mean, one of our solutions years ago was, when it wasn't that simple, was that we put scripts around a folder that we built into the desktop of our users so that they could drag email content to that folder, and it would go in and run scripts and format that. And you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, and what's really nice is once you get them into that MSG format, as Christian talked about, then it's really fair game to go, hey, I want to go put this in OneNote as part of a notebook I have on a particular project, or I want to move this all over to OneDrive because it's part of a file that I have for that, or maybe I want to stick it in a Teams area and share it with people. So those are some of the things you can do at that point, which makes this really useful.
Yep. And I've opened up voting, so you can go in there and vote real quick. And we'll capture that, and we'll figure out here. And Tom, apologies, I didn't hear all of yours. Ryan, what was your tip again?
That my tip was the one about if you try to send an attachment if you try to send an email without an attachment, Outlook will now, if you've got the option selected, say, hey, it sounds like you were trying to send an attachment.
Yep.
And I don't see one. Are you sure that's what you wanted?
And that is another enabled because of with Office 365, it gets more intelligent with that capability. That's a great example, and I'm sure we'll be sharing more and more of these features in the future, especially as your org moves over to Office 365. And Microsoft talks about building intelligent apps, And that's a great example of something of the machine learning going and looking at, you said this, or you mentioned somebody, or you mentioned that you were going to send something, but there's nothing attached, or you didn't say a date, or whatever that thing is, that action, that call to action that you didn't finish. And I've been reminded plenty of times in email where I go to hit send and it's like, are you forgetting attachments? Like, oh yeah, I said right at the beginning, hey, I'm sending you this file, and then I didn't attach it. Well, Tom, it looks like people agree. So we're at 57-43 to you. I'm going to end the poll there. Congratulations on round one.
Thank you.
And so now let's jump into round two. And Tom, I'll let you take that over and go first.
Let me share my screen here and come over to PowerPoint slides.
There.
And so the next one that I'm going to share for round two is, this is replying to an Outlook email with a Skype instant message. And I was totally oblivious to this for far too long. But what you can do sometimes if you have an email, especially if the other person, such as my boss, Sandra, is inundated with a ton of email, having another email response, which is just a little bit, short of, hey, thanks, I appreciate that, and that's it. Why do that when it's easier just to send them an IM, but you'd kind of like it to be related to the message that you were just talking about? Well, what you can do is, if you have an email selected, which in this case, my coworker, I've got this email, and instead of sending him a response because I just want a really quick, hey, got it, thanks, I can go up to Home, and in the IM, reply with IM, I can then launch Skype, and it starts a chat session with him. And when that chat session comes up, I also get the option, which is really cool, to do Control-Shift-B, which then opens the related email. So I then can say, okay, I've got the email up over here. If the Skype chat turns into something a little bit more complex, I can go ahead and refer back to that. But I've taken this out of the email back and forth into Skype, which means that we can just get right down to what we're doing with maybe a few exchanges of information back and forth, and then take action on whatever it was without us having to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth too many times.
And hey, Tom, do you know where that chat is stored? So if you want to save that, share that, copy that, do something with it?
Yeah, normally, at least in our environment, and I think this is standard, is in Outlook, if you look over on the left side where you have all your folders listed, you should have a folder called Conversations. And all your chats, I'm going to say should be, because I think there are some times where things get broken and it doesn't do this quite right. But all your chats should actually end up over there in the Conversations folder. And at least in our environment, our Conversations folder technically is only retained for like a week, I think, until it gets rid of the conversation itself. But the fact it's over there in the conversation, it can draw into this right here. Plus, when you're in Skype, if you go back and look at previous chats that you've had, you can then bring a chat back up instead of starting a brand new chat and losing all the prior information. So that, chat history as stored in Conversations can be really useful.
Yeah, and you're correct that and even when people are in Office 365, when they're moved over to the cloud, maybe you're even using Teams. It works the same way, where it saves into a place that you can go in. It's part of the Exchange workload, so you can go make sure that it's compliant. It's that it's it's backed up, all those kinds of things. Now there is an opportunity, whether it's online or on-prem, to go and do things with that. I don't know with your on-prem deployment whether you need to go and change the rules against those conversations, or you just need to to make it so that it keeps them longer or saves them off in a more permanent location. What most people do is they'll go and then save those off if it's an important discussion that you want to make again, an information asset out of, then you have the ability to go and save that. And eventually you can even go and create, with online, create like a Power App and Flow where it goes and identifies anytime there's a new conversation that, around a certain topic or with a tag that you apply to it, it can go automatically grab that and save it off somewhere. So there is some automation that you'll be able to do in the future as well.
Yeah. In our case, I think we're pretty well set on the fact that ours is like 7 days, and it's that way because that's a retention policy that we have set up.
Right.
So we wouldn't be able to change that. But if you were going to say, hey, once a week I want to go out there and see if there's anything I really need to retain, and then possibly pull that chat into the inbox, stick it in a folder, put it out on my desktop, whatever, you've got options at that point.
Yeah, and to Jason's question, I kind of said that with Teams. Yeah, the way if you're, I mean, there's some different scenarios with Teams, and if you're on there with Exchange Online, you're in Office 365, then all of those conversations are stored in there's a hidden folder that's created, and that chat history is stored in the folder of the people who are participants. So if Tom and I have a conversation, we're both SharePoint Online or Office 365 users. The conversation is stored for both of us. So if Tom leaves the company and is gone, or his team deletes the history, I still have it because I was part of that conversation. It's still archived for my team. If you have users who are on-prem, then there's the conversation, and let's say you're using on-prem but using Teams, using the hybrid connector, then it's actually that conversation is still stored. It's up in the chat service inside of Teams, so that you still can get to it with the Compliance Center and create policies around that, and to make sure things are secure and compliant, those kinds of things. So yeah, what's nice about Teams too, and I'm sorry to go sideways, but Teams was built on the infrastructure of the two primary workloads of SharePoint and Exchange. So whenever you share a file, an image, that's all in Teams, it's SharePoint. Whenever you have a conversation and there's a threaded discussion with one or more people or meetings, it's all saved via the Exchange workloads, so that all of your backup, your archiving, all of that for Exchange applies to that within Teams.
It's good to know. I didn't know that. Thanks.
Yeah. It's I'm writing more and more about that. Also, I noticed that people that over the 100 are getting bumped off this. Apologies again. That was just I had the setup. I was supposed to get notified, so it shouldn't be an issue in the future to have more than 100 people within this.
Okay.
But
Cool.
Sorry, next time. So let me go in and share my. All right, here's another one that I'm using a lot, if you can see that. So it's not baked into it, but this is a relatively new capability, but is Find Time. So I'm doing a lot of webinars now where I'm interviewing various people. I've got a video blog or a vlog that I launched with my good friend and Tom's friend. I think Tom, Noah Sparks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Noah and I have a new series we just launched, and we're doing in-depth interviews with various product teams. So we launched with Yammer. We're scheduling one with the Stream team, which is fun to say, Stream team. Yeah, and we've got SharePoint and OneDrive and Teams, and again with the Yammer all this month before Ignite, and to try and figure out a time for an hour-long recording with 6 to 8 people is excruciating. And especially if any of those people are Microsoft people and who are just all over the place and trying to find that time. So you have that add-in in Outlook, and it's out there, as you see the last line in there, for Outlook 2013, 2016, online, as well as for Mac. And you can add that add-in. And so when you're going and creating a new meeting, and it creates this new meeting poll, as you see over on the right side. So you go in there and establish, okay, here are the various times. It's a 30-minute meeting, and I'm available on this day at these 4 times, or between these 3 hours. And then it posts this poll, pushes it out there and to each of those recipients. They then go in and vote on those. And when it comes back, and let's say everybody is available at 3 different times, then you pick the one that everyone you know is available and it's the most convenient for you, and then send out that schedule when you know people can make it. So when you've got a V team, when you've got various organizations, partners, customers that you want to pull into this, where it's more than just you and one person trying to haggle over a time, this is just a huge time saver. And I know that there's been a lot of others. There's been tools like this for years, and there's even been some unofficial tools within the Microsoft ecosystem. But this is the first time, I believe, that Microsoft has released something that's fully integrated into Outlook as an add-in, and so it's just a great tool to use. And Tom, are you using this yet?
We're not. I kind of walk that fine line on add-ins because we've got the whole thing of, are we remaining secure in what we do because we do, health insurance and all these other things.
Yep.
I think if we do add-ons or add-ins, we pretty much have to make sure that they are approved.
Right.
And so far, we do have maybe a dozen add-ins that are in use by various areas, but they're tracked. So when we go to a new version, they've got to be tested and the whole bit. So yep. I generally don't advertise the add-ins very much. That may change in the future once we get everybody up on Office 365 and we're consistent, but I'm still on the edge in terms of how I do this. But having said that, this is a cool feature, especially if you're going cross-company and trying to get everybody to hit where the scheduling assistant just doesn't hack it.
And one thing I would say that, and especially your company specifically, Tom, is the fact that this is a Microsoft add-in versus third-party. I know that also makes a difference. They've gone in, put it under some additional scrutiny and should work. And I expected this to be this. They're kind of testing it out, getting feedback on it, that I fully expect this to be integrated in and be just native within Outlook here in the next year, I'd expect. Great.
Now all my people at work are going, hey, we want you to look into this. Thanks, Christian. Thanks
I would, Tom, I'd say, this is one I would say that this is going to be a huge productivity saver. And if you had this those teams going live with that first round and get them to kind of even pilot this out, I'd highly recommend this because I think it would add tremendous value when you have everybody online.
Okay, to all the people on this call who do work with me, I promise I will look at this at some point in time in the relatively near future. Amen.
It's and Sandra's on there, so if you need me to send like
Sandra wants it now too. Great. Okay. Yeah. You're gonna win this one. That's all there is to it.
Well, right now, and it looks like, it's I've got 68%, 69% of the vote there, and 70%. Oh,
okay.
People, but appreciate that, and so I'm going to go ahead and for those that if you've not yet voted, I'm ending the polling right now, and so I end with 73%.
So let's go ahead and hit number 3 here.
Let's do that. Okay, let me jump across and round 3 because we're doing good on time. I think we need to speed up a little bit. So here's one. It's a lesser known. Again, it's another thing that is enabled by the kind of the intelligence that comes with the AI and machine learning of the cloud. And so it's more of an Office 365 capability. It might be in the on-prem version. I'm not sure because I only work in the...
I think it may be Office 365 because I just recently noted this when I was trying to go out and do something, and I don't think it was there before.
Okay. But it's inside the scheduling assistant, you're going in there and you're adding people into it. And this is where you can... I say you're switching back and forth to figure out, who do I need to add into this? Who are the right people? And so what's nice about this is as you're going in and start typing and adding different names, it starts making suggestions. And this is again where you think about like with when Microsoft launched the Delve capabilities, and just as an example of what like the machine learning and AI could go and do. And for those that aren't familiar with Delve, it's almost like a My Site where it's telling you, here's all the documents that you recently had open. Here are the documents, the files that were recently shared with you. Here are the documents that your manager is working on that you have permissions to see that they're working on that might be relevant. It is even what the the AI will be able to do, and when you're plugged into cloud, is that it could even go in and say that, hey, Christian, you were having a conversation with Tom on scheduling assistant. There's this other project which is public around a pilot launch of scheduling assistant inside the company that you might want to go join this group. And so neither you or Tom are members of, but because it knows that we're having this conversation, that it's relevant to what we're discussing, and we have the right permissions to be able to see it and get access to that, we have that discovery capability. Well, that's the intelligence you can build into this. But this simple little capability of, as you're adding people in, and it's pulling up, hey, the last time you added Tom, you also added Sandra. And so it would pull up Sandra at the top of the list. And oh yeah, click on Sandra, I want to add her. So then you're not trying to remember, like, who else did I need to add to this that's relevant with the people that have already added? Here are the ones that are most commonly, that are within that, or team members that are most relevant to that topic. It provides you that guidance so you can very quickly go and find the right people and create that meeting invite. And so it's not a lot to add to that, what it actually goes and does, but it's just yet another example of the little way that the AI and machine learning capability can improve even some of the simplest things, like, who should I be adding to my meeting?
Making quick recordings in OneNote. This was something that was really cool, which OneNote always seems to surprise me here. But you can do very basic video recordings just of what the video camera is picking up. So if you want to make a really quick reminder to yourself, which is a short video that you want to make, or you want to send a short video out to your team, this is a really good way to do it. So first, go into your OneNote options and select the audio and video tab here, and just make sure that your video recording settings are correct. So for this particular case, I was using a QuickCam Pro webcam to do this. So I made sure that was selected, so everything was good and ready to go there. Then once I'm ready to go, I just go to any page that I have, and if I click on Insert and Record Video, that actually starts recording immediately. And once you do that, you'll see that it'll come up with the video here. Tell this was a while ago because that's my old apartment in Portland, which I no longer live in. But what happens is it starts doing the recording, and it also switches you over to an audio and video recording tab, which gives you the possibility to do play, pause, and stop. So if you want to do a quick pause, recompose yourself, start it back up again. If you just want to stop, you're finished. This is what you can do to get that going.
Is it because sometimes when you're recording little hints and tips, like you get overly emotional and need to kind of gather yourself and then go back in and share that next stage of what's happening with OneNote or
yeah. That's where I have my video assistants come in, they redo my makeup and the whole bit. And
that's right. Louder, line.
And so when you're done and you click stop, it goes ahead, then puts you back into play. So if you wanted to play your video, that's great. You could now send this particular OneNote page to somebody. If you have it stored, it's now accessible to all your devices that are looking at your OneNote. But what's really cool is it also gives you the ability to save this video. So if I right-click and do Save As, at that point, I can go ahead and, have this go out to, my desktop or something, or I can save it and then send it out to somebody or put it in OneDrive and share it with a lot of people. But I haven't had to go through the process of launching Snagit or some other third-party thing. It's just a really quick head-on video, whatever your video camera is capturing, and you're shot and ready to go there.
Well, I know, and Tom, you had shared in a previous the audio recording, and I think it's important just to, and because it is separate. There's sometimes you just want to go in there and add, like an audio reminder or an explanation, or and sometimes having that video. One thing that's important, I think, again, I won't speak specifically like the Microsoft's direction on this. But what's happening as Microsoft moves forward is that OneNote is becoming kind of the new wiki. And so you have organizations increasing, and Microsoft will do this at various internal, external trainings, for example. Well, they used to say, like, go to this site or download this PDF. And now it's go and download a copy of the session OneNote. And then you can add all your notes to that. And as an organization, you can have all of these OneNotes that are saved in there, so that you can have an explanation and have clip out art and stuff, and and then create a video or audio description of those things, so that you more accurately explain what it was that you documented there. And I think it's just going to be a very powerful tool. So just for a matter of time here, and Tom, you're next too. You removed the share screen, but I'll launch the poll here.
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and let you do the launch, and then go into yours right away too.
Yep. The people suggestions and scheduling assistant versus the I don't know, the video recording something whatever that was. Yeah, it's I have to say that it's while the day in, day out, I think I've got the scheduling assistant thing is just, I was reminded of it yesterday going and setting up a meeting. But as far as and you and I have the conversations all the time against the importance, the value of OneNote in our lives. I've been a OneNote fan since version 1. But as just a way to capture all of the information, all of the dialogue, and add all of those assets into OneNote. I've got my 2 research teams. We're wrapping up 2 white papers right now. Everything is in OneNote, and we've got video, we've got interviews, all those things as attachments there in OneNote, so it's all in one place. All right, Tom, you won that round, 53 to 47%. Congratulations.
That was tight. That's good.
And on to round 4.
Round 4 in 9 minutes here. Rounds 4 and 5 in 9 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, next up, adding an in folder to your, or an in folder column to your Outlook inbox. This is one of the ones where you'll probably have to look at this again to follow the steps. But this is something that I wasn't aware that this column existed in Outlook. And when I add it, it's like, this is really freaking cool, because so often you kind of lose track of what folder something is in if you happen to do a lot of folder and folder nesting from there. So you go into Outlook, go into your View tab, View Settings, and that gives you the ability to do stuff with this particular view that you're in. Let's say, in this case, it's my inbox. And I'm going to check the columns. And within the columns, I say, show me all the available columns that are in mail, and one of the columns you have is in folder, which again, I wasn't aware that even existed. So select in folder, click add, and that now goes into your view that you're working with. And so at this point, now I'm in my inbox, and what I did here is I did a search for the word tip, and what it did was it went ahead and showed me everything that had the word tip in it somewhere, but it also showed me what folder it's in, which is really cool, because now it's like, oh, is this somewhere in my inbox, or have I filed this somewhere, or things like that. And I find this is something that's really helpful to figure out where certain things are located at, if I actually need the particular email, but I want to see it within the context of the view that I'm working with here.
So this is something that I just this morning, where I went and did a search, and I've got search folders in Outlook, and there are some that will argue, and I've had a difficult time making the transition as well, to get rid of all of the folders organizing things, and instead create search folders that dynamically add things based on keyword or project or person, things like that. but I still have a lot of folders that are there. And sometimes you go do a search and you find that, but I'm like, why am I not seeing it in the inbox? Where is it going? I've created a rule and it's pulling the wrong emails into that, and I need to adjust that, but I need to go find things, and having that field is important. And so I just thought about the fact that I didn't have visibility into a folder this morning. Honest, Tom.
Yeah, this is really cool. I got addicted to it really quickly.
So this is one where we've all seen this, we've all used it, but this is one of the most used features in my repertoire. That I am not a Photoshop guy.
I
do a lot of what?
Christian, I think I want to call this one as the one that you've used before.
I don't have I. See, I was looking, I couldn't find it.
God, I go for it. I'm gonna do it because there's still that element of I'm not sure, but I think you did
so,
this.
I'll tell you what, Tom. If I've done this, so I will go and wipe all
last
points. I'll wipe any points. I'll go and find out afterwards, and so I will.
One of the chat participants says yes, you presented last session.
Did I just the last time?
Apparently.
That's what road weariness does. All right, hey, look, I'm gonna cede this one over to you.
Boom.
One of the things I will say, so aside from this, the broader point around this, instead of the remove background, some of the other options, the other effects there. What's powerful about this, especially if you're doing and you're right, I did, and that's why it was familiar. So it wasn't one that I think I had as an extra and was going to add it in, and I may have swapped out, and that's why I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I still had it in my OneNote of the future tips as not yet used because I swapped. But some of the other capabilities. So my point was that I'm using PowerPoint as a poor man's Photoshop, and it's. So if I go and I'm doing things where I just need a quick, I actually have templates that are set up for images for different, different campaigns, like marketing campaigns or projects or things like that, where I'm going back and I want to have similar style to the images that I use, and I'll go swap out a background, change the URL, the shortened URL, and the link to it or the title, but that'd have the same basic look and feel for some of those images. So to be able to go in and remove the background, and so that you can layer the images, that's right, because I did talk about the layering of images last time. But as you go in just to the right of that, the corrections that you can make, the changing the color of that, so that, and some of the artistic effects, which I'd say always be careful with those. It gets a little too abstract too quickly. But you can very quickly go and take kind of a plain, like, hey, here's the team together, and go and give it like an artistic styling, put it in the background behind then an image that you can generate for the background of a flyer, fade it so that you just see, it's saturated so that it's, it's very clear, or faded into the background to have as that background image. And then what I'll do is, even with all the text overlaid and all of the adjustments to these layered image, I'll then select everything on that PowerPoint, right click and save as an image. And then I'll take that image file, open it up in Paint or what have you, and then crop it to the right size, and then go share that out as an image. So that's what I'll generally do. If you ever see any of my tweets with, I have my monthly tweet jam, and I have these cool images that I put out on Instagram and elsewhere, where I've got the background. It's all done in PowerPoint. I tweak the coloring, I add different shading, and I put the titles with depth to it, with shadows behind it. Do some really cool effects, all within PowerPoint. Save it as an image. Go and crop it so that it's the right size, and then share that out. And it's just a very powerful tool. So with that, I'll launch the polling around this, but Tom wins.
I'm going to win.
Yeah.
To be cognizant of everybody's time, we have like 1 minute left, and we're probably not going to get to the last two tips.
And I'm going to. There's just one left, Tom. Yeah, So mine's real short and quick.
Okay, go for it.
One of the coolest things, this has been a problem within a number of Office apps for years, but OneNote was always like, well, we've shared this out. It's OneDrive or it's in SharePoint somewhere, and other people have access to it. You can now go in there and get even notifications that, hey, somebody's gone there and made edits within that. So you have that, co-editing on OneNote, the sharing of that. It's a new capability. It's already just started popping up. It's just working with if you share a OneNote via OneDrive, you actually have the ability to go into OneDrive, whether consumer or OneDrive for business, and share create like a new piece of content. OneNote is an option. You can create it right there natively within OneDrive. Share that out with people, share it as a link, and as they go and add to and edit, you get notifications that they've been in there making changes.
Pretty cool. I like that.
And Tom, back over to you.
Real quick, this is how you can get random numbers in Excel. And I have a project that I do on a monthly basis where I have to get a number of random numbers from somebody. Usually what I do is I send them out to a random number generator, and we do this. They generate the numbers. I've got the spreadsheet, and we've got some checks and balances. But this is a cool way to use Excel if you want to keep it in-house to go ahead and get those random numbers. So what you can do is, if you want to get like 3 random numbers, you go ahead and select 3 cells. If you wanted 5, you'd select 5 cells. But just select the number of cells that you want for the number of random numbers that you want. And then use this equal rand between followed by the row, or followed by the, where are we at? Followed by the low end of the random numbers that you want, which in this case, I want 3 numbers between the numbers of 2 and 250. So I do the low number, the high number of the range, and then when I put that in there and hit enter, what I end up getting, miraculously, are 3 random numbers that fit that realm between 2 and 250. I do give you a caveat on this. If you look at this link that I have here, which is where I originally found the tip and stumbled across it online, this particular methodology here can give you duplicates, which, if you're only dealing with 3 or 4 numbers, that's not that big of a deal. If you were trying to get 1,000 random numbers, maybe you need to think twice about whether or not this is the best way to go about it. But if you follow this link, it will tell you why it generates random numbers that could be duplicates. But it also gives another method if you want to go this route that will allow you to eliminate the duplicates, but it's a little bit more complex. Or if you don't want to go that route at all, you can just go out to randomnumbergenerator.org, which is usually what we do, and just use that. But I thought this was a cool use of Excel for a really quick random number generator if you needed one.
And one of the billions of cool features that Excel does that we don't use every day, it's amazing how much this is packed into that. And I've got the poll live now, and so it's the real-time, the updates and notifications on OneNote changes versus the random number generator in Excel. And and I know that just in the interest of time here, so again, we'll capture everything, and we do have this recorded. I will make these, the last month and this month, recordings available, as well as the slides. And we're actually in the next week or two, as I get my office set back up and my workstation, my primary machine up and running. But we're actually going to start a social campaign where I've got visuals, Tom, for individual pictures and visuals for every one of our tips.
Great.
Now 7 webinars. And so we'll be pushing those out at a regular clip. A lot of those will point back to Tom's website, 1 Minute Office Magic as well, so where you'll be able to find a lot of these things.